Now, around the time of the 2016 NFL Draft, I was really, really hard on the Tennessee Titans, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that I named them my biggest losers out of the 2016 NFL Draft. And part of my reasoning for this was that I thought they were taking a very old school type of approach and not really matching the reality of the current NFL times, and in particular, the future NFL times. I did not feel that this was an organization that was going down the right path to build effectively around Marcus Mariota. I thought they got some guys that potentially would bring them some value, and ultimately they did, but I wasn't that huge on this draft class. Well, sometimes that goes to show what I know, but I don't fully back off of that necessarily. The Tennessee Titans were one of the most improved teams in 2016. Now, what really benefits the Titans is the fact that they already had Marcus Mariota in the fold. And the one thing the Titans teach you, if nothing else, is that if you're going to be bad, be terrible and go all the way. Because if you go bad and you go terrible and you go all the way and you get good fortune and good timing and everything else, you can end up with a franchise quarterback like Marcus Mariota. You can end up with the number one overall pick the following year, which allows you to get a bounty of picks and gives you all type of draft leverage and sets you up for success in future drafts as well. I applaud the Tennessee Titans for, if anything else, for an organization that frankly was irrelevant for so long. They sucked and did it right, and now they are relevant again. Now they are a contender in the AFC South for whatever that's worth. And you look at this Tennessee Titans team, this was a team that finished 9-7, that was this close to winning the division and getting a home playoff game. And part of the reason for that were quality wins against playoff teams like Detroit, Miami, Green Bay, Kansas City, Houston. I mean, this was a team that had some impressive wins. They beat some good quality teams. And you look at a team like the Tennessee Titans and say that they got 5 wins against 5 playoff teams like that. They should be a playoff team. How the hell did they miss it, especially in that soft ass AFC South? Well, a couple of things. Number one, they only went 2-4 in the division. That's not good enough. In fact, they lost to the Jaguars once. You know, if you're trying to sit there and you're trying to put yourself in a position to be in the playoffs, you have to beat those bad, bad teams. And the Jaguars are a bad, bad team, and they most certainly were in 2016. And for the Titans to struggle against them at any point in time, let alone lose a game to them, that's ultimately the type of crap that keeps you out of the playoffs. Not to mention 5 of your 7 losses are by 8 points or less. So they had some close games that they ultimately couldn't close out. Offensively, this was a team that I will give them credit for the trading for DeMarco Murray. That trade worked out like gangbusters for them, getting them away from Chip Kelly and that mismatch fit in Philadelphia. Put him in a better situation, a better fit in Tennessee, and he did wonders. I think he had over 1,200 yards rushing this year. The Titans as a team with him and Derrick Henry and Marcus Mariota finished third in the league in rushing yards. Now, that's a way to help out a defense that isn't great, is to keep them off the damn field. A little bit of an improvement in the passing game, but still a lack of overall talent outside. They were 24th in the league in passing yards. Defensively, there were some improvements, in particular against the run, where they were 5th in the league in average rush yards per game, but 31st against the pass. Their secondary, not very good. And then, of course, later on in the year, it's frustrating because you see Marcus Mariota and you see the development, you see the growth, and you see the potential there. And frankly, to me, more impressive than Jameis Winston, because Winston turns over the damn football too much, even with the flashes of great play that he can show sometimes. Just too many mistakes, too reckless with the football. I'll still, after 2 years, take Mariota over Winston, and it's not that close in my mind. But he's got to be able to stay healthy. Bad breaks, pun intended here. But he's got to be able to stay healthy. Because ultimately, if the Titans want to take that next step and they want to get into the playoffs and start thinking about going further in the future, they need Mariota to be on the football field. They need him to be able to develop and grow into the type of NFL quarterback that I think he can. Now, you look at the 2016 draft class for this team, as I referenced earlier, I said that the Titans were the biggest losers in the draft. And when you look at their draft class, they did get some contributions out of it, to be fair. Jack Conklin, who after they traded from 1 down to 15, they moved back up to number 8. giving up a third rounder in 2016 and a second rounder in 2017 to go get Jack Conklin. Now, at the time, I bashed this move because I thought it was ridiculous that you would trade up 7 slots in the draft, give up a third rounder in 2016, a second rounder in 2017 for a right tackle. Now, granted, in the interest of fairness, I did say that Jack Conklin I thought was going to be a really good right tackle in the league for 10 years. So, from a fundamental standpoint, the trade wasn't going to look that bad in the grand scheme of things because Conklin was going to be a right tackle. Lewan could stay at left tackle where he should have been. Conklin at right tackle, much better prospect than Conklin as a left tackle. And that's just the way it was going to be. But at the end of the day, I still look at this and I know I had one, I think, Titans fan was kind of going back and forth with me on Twitter about this. And at the end of the day, I look at it as such. Would I rather have Jack Conklin, or would I have rather stayed at 15 and most likely ended up with the ability to draft Taylor Decker and then still keep my third round pick in 2016 and my second round pick in 2017? I personally would take Taylor Decker, who I thought had a solid season as a rookie at left tackle for the Lions. Might have even been even better at right tackle in Tennessee. You know, I just thought Decker was the better talent, number one. Number two, I thought it was ridiculous that they were trading up for Conklin and Tunsil was still on the board. But me personally, I would rather have had Taylor Decker, the third round pick in the last draft, and the second round pick in this year's draft, because it would have given the Titans even more opportunities to fill some of the gaping voids in talent on their roster. Now you look at the rest of the draft, their second round picks, Kevin Dodd, Austin Johnson, Derrick Henry. You know, there were moments where they maybe showed you a little something, but not a ton of impact there. Kevin Byard, their third round pick from Middle Tennessee State, the safety. Again, not a lot of impact there. I thought, frankly, their second best pick in that draft class was Tajay Sharp from UMass, and I thought he had an okay rookie season. He's not a special player by any means, but I do think he's an NFL starter, especially if he's put in a position where he could be the number 2 or number 3 option as opposed to the number 1 option at times that he was. It wasn't him, it was Richard Matthews. Yeah, it's impressive to see what Mariota could do with that offense with guys like Richard Matthews and Tajay Sharp on the outside. Now, heading into this offseason, the Titans are in a good place. They're in a power position in the draft with picks number 5 and 18, and they've got over $60 million in cap space. And, you know, for the Titans, they're in a position right now where I think it is okay for them to go out and spend a little money in free agency. You know, address some of the holes, and then you can focus on the draft and getting best player available and getting guys that could potentially make an impact wherever they end up lining up. In terms of guys that should potentially be targets for them, I look at maybe the nose tackle from Baltimore, Brandon Williams. Who knows if the Ravens are going to try and bring him back. I think the Titans could use a little help on the interior of their line, maybe bringing in a veteran like T.J. Lang from Green Bay. We'll see if Green Bay wants to pay him. If not, maybe a team like Tennessee should be pursuing him, because that would definitely be an upgrade in the interior of that line. And you pair him with Lewan and Conklin, and you've secretly assembled one of the best offensive lines in football. I really think they need to invest heavily in the secondary in free agency as well as the draft. You've got guys like Trumaine Johnson, Logan Ryan, Stephon Gilmore, Drake Kirkpatrick. The Titans have to sign at least one of those guys. The Titans probably would behoove themselves to sign 2 of those guys. You know, who they'll be able to sign, who will want to come there remains to be seen. But you do have that Marcus Mariota piece. There are guys, when you go in free agency now, you can pitch the fact that you've got a young quarterback like Mariota and that you're building something, and that can appeal to free agents. Because a lot of teams in this year's free agency period this offseason, a lot of teams have money to spend. So you're going to have those tiebreakers, those difference makers, and Mariota can not only be a difference maker on the field, but he can be a difference maker off the field in terms of some of the talent that may want to come play with him and help build something in Tennessee. But still, this team needs to be primarily rebuilt through the draft. They've gotten some work done there, but there is still some work to go. The number 1 draft need by far for this team is wide receiver. At the end of the day, no matter how good your defense gets, no matter how much they improve, no matter how much you get better, you're only going as far as Mariota takes you. And you've got to get Super Mario more help, period. They have to get a number 1 type wide receiver on the outside. it probably would behoove them to get a slot type of guy at some point in time in the middle rounds of this draft because you really want to plunk bigger money into a guy like Kendall Wright. But wide receiver is clearly the number one need. Now, it's interesting for the Titans because at number 5, it might be a little rich for them to take a guy like a Corey Davis or a Mike Williams. And at number 18, both of those guys probably are off the board at that point in time. So without a second round pick, it means they can't start to address that position until the third round. It'll be interesting to see how this plays out for the Titans. Maybe they pull an about face and you go pursue somebody like a Deshaun Jackson in free agency. While Deshaun Jackson is not a super stud, he is a guy that can make a difference for that offense and provide a vertical big play threat that the Titans really need. So if I'm the Titans, I might pursue a Deshaun Jackson heavily, assuming that I think that he can get along in terms of the locker room and get along in the huddle. Defense, especially that secondary, will need some addressing as well. The safety position, they need more talent there. At pick 5, they'll have the chance to get potentially an impact safety. Same thing with corner if they choose to go with corner there. The thing for the Titans that's really good about this draft is that the corner position and secondary position in general with safeties as well is really, really deep and loaded. So maybe you address it once in the first round. Maybe you don't have to address it at all. And you could still get guys that can come in and contribute as rookies. When I look at pick 18, for me, a guy like O.J. Howard at the tight end position makes a whole lot of sense. Now, some people are going to say, well, they've already got Delanie Walker. Well, I believe Delanie Walker's on the wrong side of 30, and even in the meantime, is there anything against having 2 quality tight ends? I didn't think there was anything illegal about it. Why not? You get somebody that you could do all types of different things with. You can make your running game even better because O.J. Howard is a quality blocker. And then maybe he develops and he takes over eventually for Delanie Walker so you don't have a drop-off in production at that position. Are you kidding me? I wouldn't be surprised at all if they end up with a tight end out of pick 18. The other area I think that really needs to be addressed on the defense is that inside linebacker. I don't think it's a glaring super-duper need, but it is a need. But where they're picking at number 5, I think Reuben Foster has to really stand out as a potential possibility here. Because with a top 5 pick, you're looking for guys that can be impact players, that can be difference makers. And if, let's say, Jamal Adams is off the board by that time, and guys like Solomon Thomas and Myles Garrett and Jonathan Allen, probably 2 of the 3, if not all 3 of them, are off the board at that time, you're looking for a difference maker, an impact player in that 3-4 defense. You have to have linebackers that can go. And for me, the Tennessee Titans at pick 5, Reuben Foster makes a whole world of sense. A 3-down inside linebacker that can cover, that can play the run with incredible athleticism and range. You come out of this draft if you're the Titans, even without the second round pick, and your first 2 picks are Reuben Foster, O.J. Howard, and then in rounds 3 and 4 maybe, that's where you address corner and safety. That starts to look to be a pretty good draft, and it starts to feel like a team that could potentially win the AFC South in 2017.